if you really want true abundance, first of all, it's not even about money. It's about how you feel. It's about the joy you bring into your life. It's about how appreciative you are. It's not money. People think it's money. Money is just it's a symbol. It's a symbol for the energy flow that you're allowing and the faith that you have that it's going to come forth. So when we really put ourselves in a place of knowing that we were brought here for abundance, we were brought here for joy, we were brought here to live at our fullest potential, then nothing can stop you. And I think that's where we got to in that short amount of time, releasing all the fears and healing all these wounds that told us that we weren't worth it. You know, it's like when people really question you and then you get really, really strong in your conviction. That's how I felt in that real estate office. I was like, that is not who we are. That's how I felt with the $45. That is not who I am. Whenever my bank account would go negative, you know that feeling, and then you can't breathe, and you're like, oh my God, my heart is now in my stomach. You know that feeling? Mm-hmm. It went away because I was like, that does not define me. It's almost funny. Like I have a negative balance in the world. Really? No, I don't. If that were true, we'd take all our money with us, right? It means nothing. Yet we have our whole lives conducted around it because it's so important to our society. But the truth is, it's not. It's like another lie.
That was Goldyn Duffy, and this is the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. Welcome, everyone. Episode 72, the YTP is in your awareness, and I highly recommend you keep it there because seriously, you guys, you are listening to this because there is a vibration within you that aligns with the messaging of today's episode, and our intent is for you to take these 60 plus moments of sheer wisdom to the next level in your own life to create your fullest expression because that is why we are here. We are here to do just that. Parent, athlete, professional, gypsy, friend, however it is that we define ourselves in this life, know without a doubt that there is a common thread running deep within all of us. And it's that thread, when tapped into, manifests the most gorgeous life of fulfillment, joy, and abundance that no mind could ever imagine. But to get here, we must release our fears. We must learn how to release our fears. We must heal our unhealed hurts, and we must trust with unwavering faith that there is a higher source of energy from which all beauty comes. And that energy, the very same energy that willed us to life here on earth, is available to each one of us. And it is the ultimate alignment. It is this ultimate alignment that guides us to our freedom in life and sport. Today's show, today's guest, and our connection with her was the work of that ultimate alignment. A few months ago, we received an email through Yogi Triathlete. It was from a man named Rory, spelled R-U-A-R-I. And when I looked up how to pronounce it correctly, I noticed that it translates to Great King, which I think is really interesting. But anyway, so he was eager to become a guest on the podcast. He has created this revolutionary system of support for those who wish to live alcohol-free. I explained to him that we only do in-person interviews, but I felt so compelled to share his message and his organization, 1 Year No Beer, that we left our first correspondence with an agreement that we would just let it all marinate and trust that a solution would come to the surface. After confirming our location in Southern California, he had the brilliant idea of connecting us with somebody local who had completed the program. Beej and I were all in. This sounded like the perfect solution. And a few weeks later, he sent over a few audio clips that people in our area submitted to be on the show, and Goldyn was one of them. From the first sentence she spoke, I knew we had to have her on the show. And when you listen to this episode, there will be no question left in your mind why we felt that way. This is what the YTP is all about, you guys. Sharing stories, connecting you, us, we, with others that we share the earth with. Others that are living out similar fears, pushing through familiar limits, and showing us all how they get to the other side through their personal experience. I believe this is a vital vehicle to learning because hearing through their own words and voices, hearing their stories, the ones that have led them to where they are today, is more powerful than words in a book. I mean, it puts the human behind the voice. And it doesn't matter if they're big names or not. It doesn't matter if they have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram or none at all. We have run the gamut with our guests, and there is no one more important than the other. Everyone is just as vital to this world as the next. And each of our guests will speak, they'll speak to some more than others, but it's through this incredible medium that we're able to see the journey of another. And although maybe it might look different on paper, it is exact in the core essence. The one that we, meaning all of us, right? The core essence that all of us walk every day in this life. And today, Goldyn shares the dynamic, funny, and scary story of following a calling that she heard from a young age. She opens up about dissecting and reshaping her relationship with alcohol and how she's developed the knowing that she has a divinely given right to live a truly abundant life. We tackle big topics like mindset around money, belief systems around drinking, processing shame and guilt, and one of my favorites, why exercise is not meditation. She speaks the yogi triathlete language as if I were speaking it myself, and I'm so excited to share her with you all. She is for certain doing her part to create a better world by living her purpose out loud. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcast for the show after your listen today. And yes, I am currently caught up on leaving reviews for others that have asked me to do so. But there's always more, you guys. There's always ways that we can be in service of others. And so engage in this energy exchange as we pursue the YT mission together of creating a better world. We have posted some extras from this episode up on our Patreon page, and that is exclusive to our supporters. So if you've been thinking about diving into the tribe a little deeper, check out our Patreon page, where for as little as a few bucks a month, you can make a big impact on the life of this show. All right, without another moment of me, let's dive into our convo with a woman who is not afraid to make quantum leaps in her life, speaker, meditator, and healer, Goldyn Duffy. Yeah, all right, so we're good. But yeah, I grew up in a house where wine was like the nectar of the gods, and I also have some lineage steeped in alcoholism.
Yeah.
And
who doesn't, right?
Oh my God. Well, I think we're if you look at our addiction, I think we're all addicts. And I don't say that in a way to disrespect anybody who's dealing with serious substance abuse problems or I'm not saying it to disrespect anyone. I'm saying it as like a point of clarity that we are addicted to our minds. We are addicted to our thoughts. We are addicted to who we think we are, our likes and our dislikes, and these limits that we put on our life. I'm a drinker. I'm not a drinker.
Absolutely.
I'm a social drinker. I'm a closet drinker. I don't tell anyone about it. And so for me, I never, ever thought I wouldn't drink. And I'm not saying that I don't not drink 100% of the time. Maybe, once a month, or sometimes I'll go 3 months or 6 months, nothing. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine, but it's just lost its effect on me. And I think I know it is. It's the byproduct of my meditation practice.
Yes.
Right? So meditation purifies the body and the mind, which is so amazing. And it purifies it of, maybe illness and disease that I would be moving towards in a life without doing meditation. And there's no guarantees, so who knows what my blueprint is in this life. But it fell away. I couldn't believe it. It's just crazy to me. And I was actually talking to someone about a substance that they indulge in often, and they were saying I think if I meditate more, it's going to fall away, because if I try and just stop doing it, it's not working because I still want it.
Right.
So, so I'm interested about your experience with 1 Year No Beer and what brought you there. And then I think we have some really cool stuff to talk about, even in the little audio clip that you sent us. You're into quantum physics. And you were talking about belief systems. You're like, oh my gosh, this is our girl.
Exactly.
And you're from Connecticut.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and we just found out that we're New Englanders.
I'm so blown away by that. And I'm not, it's we align with people for a certain reason. One thing I wanted to add to the meditation thing is, meditation brings you to this higher vibration, and alcohol is this low vibrational substance. So people that are attracted to it are usually just on a lower vibe. So when you start to meditate, although I've been a meditator for a long time, and I will honestly say I still had my struggles with alcohol, even though I was meditating every day. So I think that there's this idea that, I can do this one thing and it'll pull me out of whatever my addiction is. But I think that there's things that are deeper that we have to look at. Like, what are the triggers? What are, for me, looking at what my triggers were has been probably the best process that 1 year no beer has done for me. Because, for a long time I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink for 30 days. And it would be the biggest struggle of my life to do that.
Because it's
every
total
day.
deprivation and
Completely.
The underlying,
no fun.
The underlying issues. Yeah, and it's deprivation is not
I did the whole
fun.
30 and none of that was fun. It was like really clean food, no sugar, no alcohol. And I'm just like, I have no vices right now. What am I supposed to do? And I was still meditating but it was not any fun. And there was I don't think I got anything. I'm not going to say I didn't get anything positive from it, but it was such a struggle that I couldn't wait until my 30 days was over.
Yeah.
And then when I found the 1 year no beer group, which was kind of a funny story, I was with my friend Lisa Jones. She lives in Hawaii. And she's
what
from,
island?
She's from Connecticut. She's in Maui right now, but she's from Connecticut too. And we moved out of Connecticut on the same day. And we had kind of lost touch for a couple months and then texted each other because we saw on Facebook. She saw I was moving and she's like, I'm moving too. And I was like, what? The same day? This is crazy. We just have this really awesome spiritual connection. So I went to a seminar with her, Kyle Cease. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. And during the seminar, she told me that she was 3 months alcohol free. And I was like, how in the world did you do it? Because I want to do it, but I want to do it from a place of I want to do it, not from I have to do this. Because
you're still enjoying it?
Yeah, I was not enjoying it. No.
You weren't?
I had severe hangovers from 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but I would still drink them. It was like not making any sense to me. And I would say I got to the point where I wasn't drinking during the week, but the weekends you go out for dinner, you want to have fun. So I was struggling with how it was making me feel, yet I was still doing it. So that, I'm into this mind stuff. Like, why is my mind, why am I saying I'm not going to drink today? And then I find myself with a glass of wine in my hand. So I had so many questions. And she said, I found this group on Facebook, 1 year no beer. You have to join it. So as soon as I got home, and at that point, this was 2 days before Memorial Day weekend, I'm like, that's it. I'm not drinking anymore. And it was cool because she came home with me for a day. And we went out to dinner with my family. And I have older kids. They're in their 20s. Everybody drinks. My husband drinks. And we went out for lunch. And I was like, I don't want it. Like, I literally started to feel this change come over me of just not wanting it. So I joined the group. I joined the 90-day thing, which was absurd. And my husband's like, why did you do 90 days? Like, that's so just overachieving, Why wouldn't you just start with 30
Memorial
days?
Day weekend.
I know, right? The summer. I just took on summer, like sober. So I was like, I don't know why I did that. It didn't make any sense, but it was such an inspiration in my heart that I felt like I had to follow it. So I did 45 days strong. Like, it didn't call to me. I didn't want it. I just felt like I'm good. And I think that's one of the things, alcohol lies to you so much. And I started to refer to it as the abusive boyfriend because it would just entice me all the time. And then I would wake up and feel literally like someone beat me up, but I would still go back to it. So I started to refer to it as the abusive boyfriend, which I think started to make me feel like, okay, this really is not good for me, and I needed to do that, I think, to get to the point where I really wanted to give it up because there's just all these social things, these programmings, like you're more fun and you have more fun and you loosen up and it's an escape. You can escape from like the reality of life. So I did 45 days strong. I thought I was good. I'm like, this is it. I am so good. I may take the whole year. I don't know. And then I actually had a toilet overflow in my house. And we were renting from a woman. We had a toilet overflow in the house, and it was in the middle of the night, and it came down through the kitchen and basically did tons of damage to our house. So not our house, her house, but she didn't really handle it well, and she put the blame and responsibility on us, even though it was an accident. So it caused a huge amount of stress. what I realized through that is the house that I was living in was not the house that I was supposed to stay in. And our year lease was coming up. So I was faced with contractors in my house all day long, like just stress, huge amounts, and having to find a place to live within 2 weeks because we got into a huge fight with this landlady. So now I'm like, my husband and I we go out to dinner to just like chill and discuss. And I'm like, I'm having a glass of wine. There was no, like, I couldn't even reason with myself. I'm like,
there was like
You're
no
like outside yourself.
I was, it was like, there was no, I would love to find out like what went on in my brain, because that was a big step in my 90-day process, because after that I had like 3 or 4 more times where I had one drink, and it was only one drink. Right? It was only, but I thought, I'm such a perfectionist that it just drove me crazy that I would fall off this thing. So then I just kept going back to the group and looking at people that were falling. And I didn't want to say, okay, I'm starting over, because that just felt bad. And I know a lot of people don't do that in that group. They don't start over, because I think it just like defeats your purpose. And then you just feel like, what's the point? So I kept myself in my 90-day thing. I stopped posting on the thing because I felt guilty. I'm like, I'm not being authentic.
Well, it's interesting because, so this Facebook group is the 1 year no beer Facebook group, and it's probably like a super supportive group.
Super supportive.
So if there's any place that you want to go and say, I had all this stuff go down in my life.
Yes, but
and last night, we just served up some tea. It's turmeric ginger.
I'm good.
Do you want any, we have agave or
No,
we
I
have
think
some
I'm all
almond
good.
milk?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good.
cool.
Thank you.
All right, good.
But there's this shame.
Make sure she's all set.
Like this.
Yeah, so
incredible...
it's funny. It's like in this time when you really like needed that support, something said, don't even tell them about it, right?
Yeah,
like, and I think that's the power of the ego, really, to keep you in conflict. It's like when people say to me, when I'm a yoga teacher and they come to my yoga class and they're like, God, it's my first time back in like a year and a half. I had a bad accident. I got divorced. And then I had a staph infection, and I'm like, and exactly when you needed to just come and roll your mat out and just sit in the classroom, we stay away.
Yeah. So interesting. Because you just don't want to admit it, or you don't feel, I don't know, I'm huge into authenticity. And I just feel like if I can't be authentic with something, then I'm not gonna show up to it, because it's just who I am. And it's weird that I wouldn't be authentic on that page and say,
because
I fell.
It was like you what do you say? Like you compartmentalized, like, okay, well, I'm not being authentic with the 90 days, so I'm just not gonna be authentic with telling them about it.
But I'm still
But you still watch.
I knew I was going to share. I knew that eventually my story would come out.
When you were ready.
Yeah, I knew that I would be able to do that. But I think I wanted to process it all. I wanted to process the shame. I wanted to process the guilt. And I wanted to process what happens to me when I make a commitment and then I don't go through with it. Because that's not like me either. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a Virgo. Like I get things done, So I ended up, so then we moved. We found an amazing house. Such a cool story. Like all this great stuff. I mean, it's like my favorite house I've ever lived in. Just transformed, like just came, and it was like perfect. And we moved in the perfect time. And I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. But during the move, I noticed what my trigger was. When I get really physically exhausted, I use alcohol to get me through. So I ended up having a drink the weekend we moved. I think I had 2 drinks the weekend we moved, like Saturday and Sunday. And then I think that was it until the 90 days.
Which is interesting because it's a depressant and it's not going to make you feel super active. But it probably was help you make you
take that edge
not
off.
feel, period.
Exactly. Just take that edge
Go
off,
back to what the comfort, like the comfort of it. Like what the reaction is going to be like. You can sort of settle into that calmness.
Completely.
Alcohol.
Yeah. So it lies to you, just come here, just, you're going to feel better. Yeah, you're going to feel better. So then I decided, then my 90 days ended the day before my birthday, my 45th birthday.
And is that this year? Is this happening this year?
Yeah, this is just a few months ago. Yep, or a few weeks ago.
So Memorial Day of this year, 2017.
Yep. And then August 28th was my last day of 90 days. And then on the 29th, it was my birthday. So of course I was going to celebrate. I had 2 glasses of wine and felt like crap the next day. And then I decided the whole week was my birthday because we had a lot of celebrations because of my kids. And So every time we celebrated, I had 1 or 2 glasses of wine and woke up I needed 2 naps the next day. And I'm like, what is this? Why am I doing this? This is not fun.
As somebody who meditates, were you almost, sometimes I feel like when I'm just a passenger and I'm watching this person move through life,
Totally.
And then that's the witness self, right?
Yep.
But did you feel, and you get more in touch with that witness self, and I call it actually my friend Stacy describes it so perfectly when she talks about a wheel. If you think about a bicycle wheel, and there's a hub in the middle of the wheel, and that hub is our witness self. And then all the spokes going out off that hub into the bigger wheel is who we are, what we're doing, drinking the wine, not drinking the wine, meditating. And the hub just sits there, holds everything together without judgment, really strong, right in the center still, and watches it all. So as you're doing this, are you just watching it all? What is going on? Because now
I'm trying to think of how conscious I was during all of this. Because I was definitely conscious of how I felt the next day.
And so physically you were feeling exhausted. How were you dealing with it mentally? Were you feeling guilty? Were you feeling shameful?
I think I was less at that point because my 90 days was over. And also I also have this, self inside of me that's always reflective, always wanting to know what's going on, always searching and seeking and
inquiry.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just be like, okay, this is a process and what am I learning? And every time I drank, I learned something. This is what happens when I get super stressed. And the glass of wine that I had at 45 days, even though I had the shame and the guilt, I didn't have any regret because I thought this is part of my process. And that's what 1 year no beer is doing. They're showing people that this alcohol thing is a process. And just because you fall several times does not mean that you're a failure in any way. And the way that, all these other groups have done this, AA and such, there's been this stigma of you have a disease and you're a failure. And there's all of this judgment around it that causes people to, I think, not really truly find out who they really are. So I think the 1 year no beer group is more about finding out who you are and finding out that alcohol can be a part of your life, maybe, but it doesn't have to be this stigma of you're a loser, you're a failure, and you don't matter,
Good. Because I think when you fail, you learn so much about yourself.
Completely.
Right? And I'm not an alcoholic. I can't relate to the AA, but them, it just seems like it's a program and you either fail or succeed.
Right.
It's either none or all.
Right.
But with this program, it seems like they're nurturing you to be accountable to yourself, whether you fall, whether you succeed. And there's no right or wrong. It's just really having you tap into what's driving you to do this.
Right.
And do they incorporate meditation at all with it?
They do talk about it.
They talk about it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would love to do some stuff on the group page, even with meditation, because I think that will be a huge part of people's success, I think, is if a lot of them are replacing with exercise, for sure, across the board. People are taking on challenges and they're committing. So exercise is a huge drive, which is a high vibrational thing to do, and you really can't do it when you're drinking. But I would love to see, I know Rory has talked about meditation. I would love to see more of that stuff going on. Even guided meditations in the group, I think would be really helpful.
That would just tap into that.
Yeah.
Even tap into their unique person, not read something about somebody else, tap into who they are and what their thought process is.
Because so many of them so many of us are lost when we take on this non-drinking. And I think, in the cultures that a lot of these people are from, it's like, if you don't drink, I'm lucky that I have people around me that understand that I want to be alcohol free, but there's people that get reamed for this stuff on that page, and you're like, wow.
And I love that term, alcohol free.
Yeah.
As opposed to sober living.
It's so freeing.
Yeah, alcohol free. And I love that. And I noticed that they have kind of coined that, living alcohol free. You said something which is oh man, if everybody could grasp this would really be a major helpful technique for people. When I had asked you about how you felt the next day and all of that, did you feel guilty and shameful? You said, I didn't, because I accepted it, that it was a part of the process.
Yeah.
Right? That it can't... the all or nothing is not for everyone. I think it's for very few, as a matter of fact. And I think what's important is this progress, not perfection. And that if you sign up for 90 days and you fall off the wagon, or whatever term you want to use, and that's day 45, well, then day 46 is not day one again, but in a sense it is day one. You know what I mean? It's like you just continue to restart, but you don't have to rewind the clock and say, oh, I failed, now I have to do it all over again. Right. And then in front of you just continues to be the same amount of like this big journey ahead. Whereas you just pick yourself up and you say, okay, day 46.
Yeah.
Right? Because every moment in your life can be like a restart, every moment in your life, and just keep moving forward. And then you get to 90 and you say, okay, I got to 90 and I had 2 glasses of wine at 90. All right, well, maybe I'm going to go in for another 90 or another 30 or 15 days or 5 days, whatever it is. And let's see what that looks like.
Yeah.
But not judging it as failure or success, right? Because in every single moment, like if you can look back and say, okay, what was that? And like you were saying, you wanted to process the whole thing. What was that about it? And what was that thing that put me over the edge? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Now that's going to come back into my life most likely, right? Because obviously I went to the glass of wine. So I still have to heal that, or I still have to learn how to navigate that. So what was it? And getting curious, which is like the essence of yoga, is like getting curious about what's happening. And there's something that, I want to share, and I've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but I used to smoke a lot of pot. Uh-huh. And even as I was meditating, I would be smoking, and sometimes I would smoke it before I meditated. And then what happened was the more my vibration went up, and I still had this quote unquote habit or tendency or whatever it is that you want to say, there was times where I would do it, and then immediately I was like, oh my God, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Because the feeling of that felt bad. It didn't feel good anymore. Right. But instead of beating myself up and feeling shameful, right? I had already gone through that whole process. Right. I would write, and I would say, remember this. And like, as I was feeling it, I would write down how I feel. How do I feel right now? And I don't want it. And I would kind of like try and write the stoned like right out of me, and then move forward. Right. And then when I had the urge again, I would look at my journal and say, this is how you felt. Now you get to make a choice, Jess. Do you want to feel like that? Or what if you sat in a 5-minute meditation? Yeah. And and then come out of it. And then maybe you'll be even more clear. And if you choose it. Yep. But if you choose it, notice. Right. Because I knew I wanted to move away from it. I knew that I didn't, and the same thing with wine. Like I knew that it wasn't aligning with where I wanted to go vibrationally. Yes. And if you look at meditation and like I want to go to the max with this, right? Like I want to hit that super conscious state, and I can't do that if I'm using drugs and alcohol, because I will continually hit a ceiling. Yeah. Because they cloud my clarity. And it was funny because what I found was what I liked about smoking marijuana, and what I didn't like about drinking, was that drinking I would completely lose control. Like early on in my life when I would, party as a young kid, like high school and even in college, I was never able to handle my alcohol very well. And I would like black out. And thank God I was always safe. Like, thank you that I had that kind of life karma, that I was always very safe. Oh, God. But the what I loved about getting high was that I felt like it allowed me to be the person I wanted to be. Like I felt like it allowed me to be myself, because I had so much anxiety and just insecurities, that what was happening is that the meditation was allowing me to heal those and purify those lower vibrations. Right. So then when I brought in what I used to use to medicate that stuff, that like almost brought in the anxiety, and I thought, God, this is not who I am at all. I am like truly in touch with my true self when I'm meditating. Right. And so the scales just kind of tipped for me, and then it just fell away. Right. Like it just fell away.
But I feel like if you had stayed in the process of beating yourself up and judging yourself, it has a much harder time of falling away, because then we've got this like up and down seesaw thing going on, because we feel bad about the drinking and the drugs, And then we're just like, well, who cares? I mean, I'm a failure anyways. I might as well do it. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I want people to hear from me is get rid of the judgment. You know, if you're going to fall, if you do fall, then just get up and just move forward, because otherwise you're just living in the past and you're pulling that past with you, and you cannot reset when you're pulling the past with you. So that has been huge for me to just say, this is a process. And I've been drinking for a long time. You know, I grew up, my parents, alcohol was like the thing. You celebrated, you cried, you know, everything you did was around alcohol when I grew up. So how am I going to take that mindset and get rid of it in 90 days? That's a mindset that's been created over a lifetime. Of course, it's going to take me more than 90 days. You know, it may take me years before I really get an understanding of why I have an addiction or why it becomes this habit. I don't really feel like it's an addiction anymore, but I do feel like it does call me in certain ways.
Like a belief, it's almost like a belief system.
Yeah.
And rest assured.
A society belief system. This is like
Yes.
reaped in our society.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's heavy in New England. I would say it's pretty darn heavy.
Those long
in
winters, are you kidding me?
where we're from. I
What
know.
else
New
is
England
there to do,
Patriots, come
right?
on.
What else is there to do, right?
As three New Englanders sit
Yes.
in the perfect weather of San Diego. But rest assured, I spent many years, I bet like at least 5 years of still doing what I didn't want to do and beating myself up about it. But it
Sure.
wasn't until I started raising my vibration through meditation was I able to take on that courage
Yes.
to say, oh, wait a minute, like the beating up is it's not love.
No, it's holding you down.
It's
it holds
not
you back.
love. So why am I indulging in that?
Right.
I need to heal this. And what's going to heal this? Love is going to heal this. So let's look at it in truth. Let's love what we see. And let's make a conscious choice to move forward, whatever that looked like.
Right.
But moving forward with consciousness.
Right.
What was it that I know your friend introduced you to it, but why did you want to express yourself in like an alcohol-free way? Like, what was it?
I think it had been calling me for a long time. I mean, probably years. I've been having this struggle of it doesn't make me feel good. And I think part of it too is that as my vibration started to raise and I was meditating a lot more, it was making me feel worse and worse. And I've heard that from other people, that as you get more spiritual and more enlightened, it doesn't align with your actual cells in your body anymore. So you're gonna have way more hangovers than the normal average person. I could have 2 glasses of wine and feel like I had a bottle. So that was a huge part of it, was my physical feelings about it. But then the other thing is I always want to be in control. I have like this, this feeling of just like, I want to have a say in what I do over everything I do. It's like we have 4 kids, and I'm like, with the kids, it's like if I just say things that come out of my mouth and I don't have any control over that, then how conscious is it? Like, I always want to be conscious. So I think even when I did fall, there was this consciousness about it. Like, I had made the decision that I was going to have a glass of wine early in the day. I'm like, I'm going out with my husband. I'm going to relax. Like, I have to do this. Like, I have to, or I'm just going to like fall apart. So I felt like it was part of me making a conscious decision. And when it comes to alcohol, that's my goal. Like, that's what I really want. I think that's what I've always wanted. I don't want to be alcohol free for the rest of my life. That, to me, maybe I'll get to that point spiritually. I don't know. But it's like, I enjoy a glass of wine every once in a while with a nice dinner. But what I found is that it can only be one. For me, it can only be one, because if it's past 1, I don't feel good the next day. So it's about figuring out what is good for you and where you are consciously. And that could be another lie I'm telling myself. Like, I have to have a glass of wine every once in a while,
I was gonna say, but you're questioning that. But you're
I am. So I'll find the answer eventually.
You will.
Right?
Backtrack. Where did the meditation come in? Like,
oh man.
because is that
Yeah.
bringing awareness to not feeling well with the alcohol? Like, you started to make that connection, and was the meditation helping? Or like, where did that meditation practice start?
I would say I've been meditating for about 15 years, but I would say like really seriously and really getting really conscious happened probably the year before we left for California, because I was home all the time. I wasn't really building my business because I wanted to move. So I'm a speaker and I do things on quantum physics and law of attraction. So I wasn't speaking anymore. I was just home. I was writing and I was meditating pretty much all day while the kids were in school. And thankfully I have a wonderful husband who allows me to do that.
Sounds amazing. Yeah. That's what I want to do.
Without, with a little bit of guilt, there was a little bit of guilt there, but I kept reminding myself I'm on this journey and my husband is giving me this incredible, and I think if it wasn't for that, I don't know that we would have made it to California, because I got so clear on what I wanted, on where we were going. And he wasn't totally on board. He got on board, but he wasn't totally. And he, to this day, he will thank me for just believing in my dream and knowing that we could do it.
So familiar.
And dragging him across the country.
But deep down, just so I can probably speak for your husband, like deep down, I know that you have the best intention in mind.
Oh,
like,
completely.
You've got my best intention.
Yes.
You know something.
Yeah.
So having that law of attraction, like knowing together, like this is the best thing.
Huge.
Like just follow along.
Huge.
Because when you fight it, I feel like you're just building up more negative energy that could possibly
we had 4 years before there where he really didn't want to go, and I just wanted to go west. I knew it was west. I didn't know where. And so I wouldn't fight with him because I know law of attraction. Mm-hmm. So I just kept putting my desires out there. I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew that if I just stayed clear on that, that's a huge lesson for people. Don't fight with your significant other on what you want. Just stay focused on what you want, because that's all resistance. So I just let all that resistance go, and eventually he came so far on board that, we just both made it happen, and everything just came together.
Okay. So this story is like, people who know us and are listening to this, they're going to be like, wait a minute, is that Goldyn or is that just talking? Is that Goldyn or is that just talking?
That's so crazy.
Because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I couldn't put it into words. But when I was I had been called out to California since I was like a little girl.
Me too. Little girl. Yep.
Long time. And I'm 45.
Yep.
And so when it got closer, and it came to me in a meditation, and I texted BJ at work and said, I've got a plan, which I didn't really have a plan. I've got a plan. We're out of here.
Yeah.
And he said, and I got the text back was, as long as it's warm.
I love it.
And so talk about somebody believing in,
But that was the right time. Like I had been in my job
you were ready.
for almost 20 years, the same job, like right out of college.
Yeah.
It was just that time, and something clicked, and I was like,
that's huge.
Let's do it.
It was just another moment where a window opened in life.
Yeah.
And it was like, we wanted to pursue Yogi Triathlete was already in existence, but she was more of like my blog, but you were doing a little bit of coaching, and then people were asking us for a podcast, and it was like,
cool.
Okay, this window is opening. And then the calling to come out here was getting so big. I could feel it in my heart. And people would be like, I don't, what... I love you, New Englanders. I love you, but you don't always understand.
You're not always so supportive.
You don't always understand an expansive calling, and that's what it was. I would say there's just an expansion that's calling me out there to take my spiritual development to another level. I know that and since I've been here, oh my God, I've been in spiritual university. Yeah. But I understand that calling. And then when we landed here, and maybe you can relate to this, but when we landed here, everyone would say is it what you wanted? And I said, the expansiveness that I felt back there calling me, I am now living in that.
Yeah.
So it's the essence is exactly the same. Oh, I'm just living in it now. Yeah. So two questions is, I want to go back to BJ's question about when did the meditation come in, but also when was the turning point when you said and I'm totally understand the law of attraction and all that too, and I want to actually talk about that a little bit more. Yeah. But when did that come when you were the window opened, we got to go?
So so let's see, September.
And what year is
this?
So
September of 2000. What year are we in now? It's so hard to track it back. So we're in 17. I think it was 2015. Oh, 2015. 2000. Okay, so it was 2014 of September we had set this plan. So all summer we are doing I'm doing massive meditations around California. There's a Bob Proctor guided meditation called the Abundance Meditation. It's fantastic. But there's waves, and I could literally feel myself on the beach in California. I did this every single day, twice a day. It's like a 20-minute meditation. I still nap to this, like in the afternoon. I do a little nap with him because it's like, it was so perfect, and I could feel myself literally. And that's what they say, visualization, feel yourself there, create that space. So I did that. And then I was hunting around on Facebook for a friend of mine who told me, if you ever want to see California, let me know. Because I was like, oh, I want to live in California so bad. And
Had you ever been here before or lived here before?
I was here for one day on my way to Hawaii, and it rained. It rained. Yeah. And this was the day that my girlfriend and I, who lives here, hatched a plan to get my husband to fall in love with California. And it rained, and we took a nap.
Perfect. I love it. He goes,
I don't really like California. And I'm like, oh.
But you still keep the
going.
focus.
But that's like the days, like it's cloudy in the morning. Yeah. Just wait. It's just like, just wait.
No, it rained all day. It rained all day.
It was that day.
Even
it was that one day.
So
perfect.
So I connected with this guy on Facebook. He's like, "Are you trying to get a hold of me?" I'm like, "Yes." So him and I started talking, and he lives in Long Beach, and he's like, "You have to come out here." Well, this is hilarious. I won the lottery. I won $950. I got 5 numbers out of 6, but it was only like $1 million lottery, so I only got $950. But I was like, oh, I won the lottery. We have money for plane tickets. Let's go to California and scout. So it was one of the funnest trips we ever had because we left our kids home. It was just the two of us, and we just went everywhere. I met this guy on Twitter who lived in Santa Monica. He's like, you have to come up here. So we started in Santa Monica, made our way down Orange County. This guy in Long Beach showed us around. Then this other woman that he was friends with showed us all around Orange County. And then we even came down to San Diego to see where we fit vibrationally.
And the vibrations are so different from LA County,
so different.
Orange County,
like
San Diego.
You can feel your body change when you come
totally.
out of LA. Like
totally.
Like, oh. So we did that whole trip and decided my husband's a builder. So he had a huge, amazing business in Connecticut. And he's like, I can do that anywhere. But California is a little different. So there was definitely some recalibrating that he had to do. So we're in Newport, and he's like, oh, I could totally build here. Because they are like very much New England style homes. So we tried making connections with people. Nothing happened. So this is like when you have to leap in faith because we didn't have any connections. We had friends, like 3 friends here, and we just had to, take that step to say, okay, what are we going to do? So our house was actually under foreclosure. Now our house, I haven't told this story to a lot of people, but our house was in foreclosure for 5 years because we went through that whole thing in 2008 and we tried to remodify our loan, which we did successfully. And then we defaulted again. And then it went into foreclosure for 5 years. The banks never contacted us. We just basically lived in our house for 5 years. And then that February, they sent us a letter and said, we're going to be foreclosing soon. And I'm like, why are we letting the bank determine our fate? Like, why don't we just set a plan in place and leave? I said, this house will not be taken from me. I will walk away from it. Like, that was my intention the whole time, was like, this house will never be taken from me. I will walk out before it's taken. So we made a plan to save $30,000. Now, we were not good about saving money. Here we are living in a house. We were struggling for a long time. And then all of a sudden, Mike got all this work. He got these huge remodels. He got, just people that were really wealthy. He was able to price jobs really good. So from February, we booked plane tickets for it was the day after my kids got out of school, like June 30th. And from February to June 30th, we saved $20,000. So we didn't hit our goal of 30, but that wasn't going to stop us.
Progress.
But you were, so this is the thing. This is like, there's so much of a message in here. This is the thing. Like It's like a surrender of like, okay, this is what's happening. We're going to take this leap. Here's the window that's opening.
Yes.
And what do we need to do? You always have to take that. We got to live in the world.
Yes.
So what's the next logical step?
Yeah.
Okay, let's save as much money as we can. And let's believe in this, that this is what we need to do. And then boom, all of a sudden, because the resistance was gone.
Yeah, totally gone.
And that's what
we're like,
the
okay, we got a
blocker.
plan. We got plane tickets. We got a plan. We've got, we know we're going to be able to, for some reason, we just had total faith that the money was going to be there.
That's it right there.
Total
That's
faith.
it. And it's like the universe goes, oh, awesome.
Yep.
Look it. They opened up this space. Let me fill it in.
Completely.
That's how it works, everyone.
Money was coming from everywhere. When I tell you I was taking in money every day because we were selling all of our stuff too, like literally money was just coming from every direction. So I knew that we were going to be okay, but we had no house and no jobs. And we had two kids with us. One daughter we left back in Connecticut. She's now here. Thank you so much. So happy she lives here. And our other daughter lives in Arizona. So we had 2 teenagers with us, and they were pretty excited about it, but we were terrified. I will tell you, not having a home is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. So we had a friend, our one friend who lives here, was going to Hawaii the day we were moving, right? And she goes, hey, you guys can stay in my house for 10 days. Because I could not get an apartment without seeing where I was going to live. I just couldn't do it. I tried. I tried, but I was like, I have to know that I'm safe, that my girls are safe, and that I'm in a good town. So we ended up staying in her house for 10 days, and it was very stressful because it was like, where are we going to live? Is it the right place? People had to have faith in us that we were going to be able to pay our bills. We didn't have jobs. I still don't know how that happened.
This is a very similar story.
Is hauntingly familiar.
It's insane. So we ended up
so funny.
looking at all these rentals, and we were driving down to San Clemente to look at a rental, and we needed gas. So we got off the highway in Aliso Viejo. And as we're pulling off the highway, I look around, and there's this town center with like 75 stores. And I'm like, I think I could live here. Like, I just felt good. I felt like it was safe. I felt like it was a family environment. And the next day I got an email from our apartment complex, and we ended up moving to Aliso Viejo. And it is one of the safest, it's like one of the top 6 safest towns in the country. And I love it. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
So that's where you are
right.
now. See, I
That's
don't
where
even
we ended
know
up.
where you are.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're just at our house.
It's like 45 minutes from here. It's not
perfect.
far. Yeah.
So you're up in San Clemente. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, Aliso Viejo.
Okay,
Yeah.
so where
we
is
didn't end
that
up
from?
in San Clemente because the energy was funky there. And I knew it when we went out to dinner, and I was like, there's something really off here. Beach towns are interesting, you know, probably less in San Diego. I think more up towards like us.
There's different vibes here.
I'm, very leery. I have teenage girls, and I'm just like, I need to keep them safe and protected.
Yeah,
so,
Even the vibe from Carlsbad to Oceanside.
oh my God,
Yeah.
totally
Totally
different.
different.
Oceanside's
Totally
like
different. To
really
Escondido,
pretty
like,
edgy.
Yeah.
And Carlsbad, I remember, because we weren't even considering Carlsbad, and I remember looking it up online, because you got to do these like real world things like, Google, what's it like to
I
live
was
in
looking
Carlsbad?
at demographics. Like,
Yeah.
who does that?
I know.
We were watching videos.
And we had no jobs.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
Yeah.
reason why we should have like been able to
Right.
land this sweet little studio by
Yeah.
the beach. There's no reason. It
Yeah.
was like in the moment
Pure
when
desire.
we came to look at this, and we were like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And it was like there was like another being like
Yeah.
went into the lady that was renting us the place because nothing made sense. We had no jobs. I'm like showing her
love
tax
it.
returns from like
Yes.
2 years ago. I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
this is what we made 2
Yeah.
years
and I got a
ago.
part-time job where I had
Yeah.
like a automatic deposit.
Yeah.
Like there were these
Like,
things that were just
we just
Yeah.
happening right at
Yes,
that
just
moment.
yeah,
Perfect.
and
Yep.
and so what was I gonna say? Yeah, it's just that's what it is. Like it doesn't make any sense. But if you're open to it, it all kind of comes
Right, and
together.
if you're not fighting it and going, okay, this shouldn't make
Yeah.
sense, like this shouldn't be happening, it's not going to happen that way. If you're just like, oh, it's totally going to happen.
Yeah, it's totally going to happen. And so I remember what it was now. So I do this like Google search, what's it like to live in Carlsbad? And somebody, like I see this forum and it's this guy, and God knows how old he is or whatever. And he's like, Carlsbad is a bore. The cops have nothing to do. There hasn't been a crime committed there in like a century. Blah blah blah. Like all about if you are into like not doing anything at night, like,
no.
and I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is like a perfect place for us.
Right?
We're like, it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop. I'm like,
like,
this is perfect. Because we weren't even considering living in Carlsbad. We
Right.
wanted to live in Encinitas.
How
We're
funny.
putting all our energy
Yeah.
into Encinitas.
Isn't that funny?
And just like you were like with
Yeah.
Newport, like nothing came
no,
back.
no.
Nothing came back.
No.
And then this came in so quickly. Within 2 days we moved in, and like you, it
Yeah.
did not make any sense at
No.
all that we should have been given the keys to
Yeah.
to live
No,
anywhere.
I know. In our
on paper.
apartment complex, they charged us $400 more because our credit was terrible. $400. That was it. No jobs. Credit sucks. Sure, move it. Didn't make any sense because we actually had an appointment with a real estate agent who basically reamed us out because our credit was so bad and was like begging a real estate agent to let us live in one of her really gross houses. I'm like, I did not move to California to live in a gross house. Like I moved here to live in abundance, right? So we
you
had
have
that
bad
experience,
credit.
and I walked out, and I was like, you know what, buddy? You don't know us. You don't know who we are. We're out. Like, I couldn't even listen to him say that we were just these, that wasn't who we were. We weren't
Right.
these losers that needed somebody to give us a, ghetto house.
Credit scores don't define you.
Don't.
You know,
no.
if it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter who you are. We are all going to ebb and flow through
absolutely.
financial ups and downs, whatever that looks
Yes.
like. I don't care if you are a gazillionaire. You are going to ebb and flow in your life through different financial heights and lows and debts and no debts. Like we were totally debt free. Now we have some debt because we're rebuilding and we're starting this
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
But I know that money is energy.
Completely.
Right? Money is energy.
Completely.
And this is like right up there with the alcohol thing.
Yeah.
Like the belief system that we have around money
Yeah.
is so ridiculously limiting.
Yep.
And fear based that we're not going to have enough, like living in scarcity.
Lack mentality. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So you ended up. So the town that you live in are you in Orange County?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, there
I'm
you are.
actually, yeah.
Near Laguna.
Yes, I'm right near Laguna. Yeah.
Oh, our
10
meditation
minutes.
teacher lives up in
No
Laguna
way.
Niguel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's
That
wonderful.
Laguna Niguel is actually, we share a high school with them, so we're like super close. I do most of
Yeah.
my
Okay.
stuff
So you're
there.
close to you're west of the 5. You're close
Yep.
to the beach, and
Oh,
you've got
yeah.
some good mountains
Yeah.
there.
And we love Laguna, but we didn't want to live in Laguna, and now it's like we get to go there all the time because
Yeah, Laguna's a great place to go. We
amazing.
went there as one of the places that we were possibly going to live, but it felt very much like Newport, Rhode Island.
Touristy.
Yeah. It
so
was
bad.
like very like condensed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like I'm in Newport, Rhode Island again. And
Yeah.
I loved it. And we have a friend that lives there. But it wasn't like
It wasn't where I wanted
It
to
just
live.
wasn't for us.
Yeah.
None of these places are better or worse or whatever.
No.
It's just like
it's like where do you align? You know?
yeah, you got to be awake
sure.
to feel that alignment.
Absolutely. And that's the interesting thing too, is knowing that your energy will, that you'll be able to sense the energy when you go to a place.
Because it can be pretty subtle,
So
right?
scary, too.
And if you,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
scary.
You don't want to end up in the
Absolutely.
wrong place. Here I have kids and I'm moving them across the country. If I screw this up and then they have to move to another school, that's
Or you're
like
going
a lot
into
of
the
pressure.
future.
Yeah.
Like you're just
completely.
Like your mind is just going
completely.
there where
There
if you
was
just stay
so
on
much
purpose.
fear. We worked through so much uncertainty and fear. The expansiveness that you were talking about was insane. I will forever be really, really happy that I did this just for both of us because there's nothing I'm really that afraid of anymore.
I know. Oh, I'll tell you, sister, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
and the faith, like the faith building.
Unwavering.
Whew, it's
So
yeah.
how did you work through the fear?
So meditation was huge. Meditation's probably what got, and I also work with an energy healer who was helping me to like release a lot of the stuff that I was going through. Cause there was days I couldn't breathe. I mean, there were days. So when we first got here, my husband actually connected with someone on Facebook who connected us with someone else and he got a job. Like pretty much within 2 weeks that we lived here, he got a job working in our town for a guy who he's actually kind of partnering with now. Now he has his own business. He's killing it in California. Like, the abundance here is insane. I mean, New England, it's great, but there's just so much here. There's so many people. So he worked for this guy, but we weren't making enough money to pay our bills, the bill thing, So
I think we're familiar with that situation.
And this guy was,
Loosely.
This guy was so good to us. Like, he gave us money to go back and get our tools from Connecticut because we had left all of our stuff there. Like, he lent us money and Mike paid him off. He was paying us for our truck. Like, gave us a stipend for Mike's truck, which we bought Mike's truck when we got here and had no idea how we were going to pay for it. It's like one of those things you're signing the paperwork. You're like, all right, $550 a month. Okay. Hopefully we can pay that. So he did so much for us. And then all of a sudden it just ended and we didn't have work. And I was like, remember that thing that was kind of paying the bills? And the interesting thing about the bills was that every single month it would work out. Every month. My business actually started to take off in a really big way, which I had not anticipated. I was just doing energy healing and life coaching and stuff like that. I had people that were coming out of the woodwork. I've never marketed. Every once in a while I'll throw stuff on Facebook about what I do with people, but I've never really marketed. And I would just get word of mouth. People were coming to me for amazing healing. I've worked with this one woman for 2 years. From the time I moved to now, we still work together. So we would have my money come in all of a sudden and just kind of save us. I found $100 on the ground at Trader Joe's one night, and my husband it was unbelievable. We had $45 left in our bank account. And I walked into Trader Joe's and I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy shrimp and langostinos because that feels good to me. And I feel abundant. And it's okay that there's only $45 because there's more money coming. Walked out of Trader Joe's and I swear to you, there was $100 on the ground and I looked up and I was like, wow. And my husband was like, that's it. Like, we're fine. We are going to be taken care of. Like, it was just such evidence that, we get so scared and we live in scarcity. And I think that slows the flow of all of it down. All of the energy, all of the abundance, everything. And we've had such a shift in the abundance factor that I can tell you today, it's just astounding what has happened in the last 6 months. We went from like, okay, paying the rent, like kind of squeaking by, to being able to do things again and live in a beautiful house and afford things again, where it's like, it's just a complete shift.
I think there's also it's like the messages that we give to the universe, right? So we look at our bank account and we say, oh my God, I have $45 in the bank account. We only have $45 and we can't get shrimp. We only have $45 in the bank account. And what people don't realize is that as we're sentencing ourselves to what our life looks like on paper,
yes,
the future keeps moving in because the future is every moment that moves in. So we keep bringing into the future, oh my God, we only have $45 in our bank account. Exactly. Oh my God, we only have $45 in our bank account. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. When's it ever going to come? It's never going to come. We don't have enough. And the reality of now doesn't have to be the reality of now.
Yeah.
Or the reality of now.
Exactly.
And that it's how we're just like this, like, just move forward. It's not that you failed. It's just how can you move forward and going and really listening into your heart and living in a mindset of abundance is huge. Yeah. But what I want to talk about with the law of attraction, this is a perfect segue, is the law of attraction. So I totally get it. Like, I'm sure you know Abraham Hicks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Spent years listening to her.
Yeah. She's amazing.
There's
love
missing
her.
pieces in Abraham Hicks though that I feel like I am brought here to share.
That's it, my friend.
Seriously.
This is what I'm talking about, the missing pieces. Yeah. Because we can do our vision boards and we can do like our mantras and all of that. But I believe, and let me know if you agree with this, if we are not doing the inner work to heal the root of those blockages, the vision board is just going to sit on the wall. And it's
haunting you.
And maybe a few of them might come in by luck. But the true creation really comes from the law of attraction, the vision boards, whatever it is that you're going to do to keep it moving forward and see yourself in your fullest expression in this life. But you've got to heal the deep roots.
Completely. Yeah. Because there's a gap. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to go. And in that gap, there's so much processing that needs to happen before you're even able to accept the abundance. That's why people who win the lottery usually end up losing it. I think it's like 98% of people end up losing the money because they're not aligned with the abundance. If you really want true abundance, first of all, it's not even about money. It's about how you feel. It's about the joy you bring into your life. It's about how appreciative you are. It's not money. People think it's money. Money is just it's a symbol. It's a symbol for the energy flow that you're allowing and the faith that you have that it's going to come forth. So when we really put ourselves in a place of knowing that we were brought here for abundance, we were brought here for joy, we were brought here to live at our fullest potential, then nothing can stop you. And I think that's where we got to in that short amount of time, releasing all the fears and healing all these wounds that told us that we weren't worth it. You know, it's like when people really question you and then you get really, really strong in your conviction. That's how I felt in that real estate office. I was like, that is not who we are. That's how I felt with the $45. That is not who I am. Whenever my bank account would go negative, you know that feeling, and then you can't breathe, and you're like, oh my God, my heart is now in my stomach. You know that feeling? Mm-hmm. It went away because I was like, that does not define me. It's almost funny. Like, I have a negative balance in the world. Really? No, I don't. If that were true, we'd take all our money with us, right? It means nothing. Yet we have our whole lives conducted around it because it's so important to our society. But the truth is, it's not. It's like another lie.
Yeah, that's another podcast that's rocking the world. It's rocking the world. I mean, it's just so beautiful to hear you speak this. And so, and I know this is what you do in your life. So, so tell us a little bit about your business.
So I basically, what I started doing was law of attraction coaching. Cause again, I got really into Abraham Hicks. I was reading everything I possibly could, Mike Dooley, and just, all these different people. And then I realized I love Abraham Hicks. I think she is a beautiful woman. I think she's doing amazing work, but there's this stigma involved, and I was watching all these Abraham groups on Facebook, and a lot of people were struggling. I mean, struggling constantly. And what I found with my husband and I were listening to this stuff all day long is that we were in denial. We were in denial about what was going on, about how we were really feeling. We were just trying to go for a walk and be happy. And it wasn't working. Our life was like crashing in around us. And we're sitting there going, oh, we don't need to work. The universe is going to provide. And maybe at some point in your spirituality, you can get to that. But we weren't there vibrationally. We were scared to death vibrationally. So once I started to realize that, I started studying quantum physics because I'm like, I want to know how this works scientifically. So the book that I read that changed my life in a big way is Do You Quantum Think by Diane Collins. She is brilliant. I've listened to a lot of her podcasts too. She's super smart. But one of the things that I learned from that was that your financial condition and your money does not come from your job. It comes from the infinite source. It comes from infinite energy. It comes from being tapped into this infinite energy that you have faith about. And once I realized that, I was like, I don't even know what's going to happen today. That's what I started feeling like. I don't even know what's going to happen today. And oh my gosh, we would get checks in the mail. We got a $2,000 check from our mortgage company. That's laughable. The house we got foreclosed on. That was Christmas, our first Christmas here.
The one that you weren't paying for?
Yeah. For 5 years. Yep, that was the very first Christmas we were here. And the interesting thing is my husband's check got mailed from his company and never made it to our house for Christmas. So that saved Christmas. We had Christmas because of that check that just showed up out of nowhere. I could have never imagined that would happen. And that's happened to us so many times. Like, I can't even count. So it's about having faith that you're always going to be taken care of, that there is no lack in the universe, and that, we create by our thoughts. And it's okay if you have worries and fears. I think that's the other thing with Abraham. I think that I started to become like a real Nazi with my thoughts, where I was like, oh, I don't want to look at it. But it's like right here, on my shoulder. I realized that our thoughts are our thoughts, our feelings are our feelings. We have to acknowledge them, and there's a healing process that's going on that I think is being left out in those teachings. People are not recognizing that, I've got crap to deal with. I've got wounds from my childhood. I mean, us in our 40s, think about it. We have parents who grew up with parents who were in the Depression. That is still around. That depression mentality is still there. We're the ones that are going to break it. I feel very strong.
Oh, heck yeah.
We are breaking like all the barriers when it comes to that, because especially with the internet, people are proving that they can do anything and make money doing whatever they want. So But that's the social programming that we've grown up with. Oh, you have to save and you have to be careful and, no way.
It's funny. Whenever I get my ass kicked by the universe, I have been able to track it back to listening to too much Abraham Hicks.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Like I'm still doing my meditations and stuff like that. But since I was turned on to her in the past couple of years, I have to listen to it. And I love it because there's so much messaging in there. Because there is a lot of divinity that's, the divinity that's coming through her, but I have to integrate it into the knowings and the wisdom and the teachings that I'm receiving from elsewhere, from my meditations, from my teacher, that I'm still doing the work every single day. And I think I had similar experiences to you where it's like, okay, I just got to like align with buying these groceries and like align with that. And like, I'm really happy right now about spending my last, and I don't know how I'm going to pay that bill that's due tomorrow. And I'm not going to like deal with that. I'm going to look at the bank account. And
I didn't look at the bank account for years.
Years.
And
it's funny because I find that I can get too focused on one thing, and it brings me back. It brings me back by getting my butt kicked a little bit, and it's like it's a full integration, Jess. Like it's a full integration because you are not just one thing. Like you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work every day by sitting. You've got to get more in touch with those subtle energies that Abraham Hicks is talking about and is so tuned into. But not everybody is tuned into that.
Well, and this is the thing. I don't want to bash Abraham because I do love what she's doing. And I think that she's part of waking up the mass consciousness. But I think for me, when it comes to, I love what she's saying. But I think what's happening is people, just like in a lot of religions, is they're putting her as the guru, like as the God. Like I have to listen to everything she says. And they're losing that inner voice. So like you were saying, when you connect with your inner voice, that's your answers. It's not looking up YouTubes of Abraham. I know so many people that do that, and I did it as well. I still sometimes do it where I'm like, I don't know what Abraham says about this. But you're losing your inner voice. And also not believing that you have the same connection. We all have that connection. We all have the ability to channel that. We all do.
Yes. Like after a yoga class, I had this woman actually come back after a class last week, and she said to me, she left the studio like after class, and she came back in, and she was like, I just want to tell you that ever since I started taking your class, I'm sleeping better. Like I'm noticing my thoughts, and I'm saying, no thoughts. I'm going to sleep now. And I just want to tell you that like if it wasn't for you, like you're doing so much for me. And I was like, no. Don't you put that on me. You are doing all of
I'm just
this.
leading the horse to water.
I am exactly like, I'm just the messenger. And sometimes it's funny. I'll say that to my class. Like I take no responsibility for your class, like your experience, whether it's good or it's awful. I take no responsibility for that.
Which is so good on your part to not get caught up in that ego.
No,
like it's all me,
No. Oh my God. Ugh, please. They're creating, and that's part of the teachings. I'm just like, you're creating this entire experience for yourself right now. So what are you creating?
Right.
You know? And that's the thing. And any spiritual teacher will say like, I am not your guru. Like, like I am just, there's an energetic connection here, and I am to teach you what I've learned from tapping in, because I'm a few stations up on the train.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's just what it is. So we flow it through. And then what's the trickle effect there? Right. Like the people that you're working with, the people that are in BJ's yoga class, like his athletes, like the trickle effect is just amazing.
Incredible
of this podcast. People like, talking to their families about it. And now all of a sudden they're at a family event and people are talking about meditation and law of attraction and like whatever, but the conversation is shifting. And I think, and Abraham Hicks would be the first person to say, I'm not your guru.
Yeah, no, totally. She would. Absolutely.
Like she's just channeling through. And so we can all have that by doing the work.
Exactly.
By sitting. What do you say to people who, I'm interested on your take on this. It's just dropping in now. Like I can't sit and meditate. My mind's too busy, but I go running. Running is my meditation, or I don't know, shopping's my meditation. Like whatever it is that they believe is their meditation. What do you think about that in replacement to sitting?
Yeah, I hear that all the time, probably from every client I've ever instructed, because if you work with me, you have to meditate or we don't work together, because I've done studies on people, and the ones who don't meditate are basically wasting both of our time, because I can't get into their field to do the energy healing that I need to do if they don't meditate, because there's no opening, there's no space. Like, they'll sit there and have thoughts over and over and over again, and we can't get quiet. So then for some reason, there's no, like, I can't tap into their deepest places unless they meditate. So what I tell people is it's a practice. I've done like one little short video on YouTube just to teach people how to do it. It's a practice. So we all get good when we practice, right? And some days it's going to suck. Like, you're going to judge it as sucking. First of all, you're not supposed to judge it, but there's going to be days. Yeah, there's going to be days where you're going to get up and you're going to go, well, that was a freaking waste of time. But it's not, because there's pauses between your thoughts that you're not even aware of that are giving you huge benefits. And all of a sudden, I give people a week. I'm like, give me 1 week of meditating 20 minutes per day, and then let me see how you feel. And their session will be completely different than the week before. And they'll go, oh, wow, I don't get as upset about stuff anymore. I'm not, I don't feel as anxious. There's just so many benefits. There's like 1 million benefits. I mean, they have proven that it stops cells in its tracks. Like, it stops cancer, Like, there's got to be something to this, right?
Cancer is just a mass manifestation of negative energy, of just karmic energy.
Exactly.
How do we burn that out?
Yeah.
Meditation.
And then you'll fall in love with it, and hopefully it'll become sort of an addiction. I don't really take too many days off. I'm really committed to at least my 20 minutes. I usually do something in the afternoon too, to just chill me out for the rest of the night. But I could not live without it. I wouldn't live without it.
What do you do on the days that you don't?
I'm usually just busy and silly.
Did you ever go through a phase where you're like, oh, I didn't meditate, and you carry like so? No, the same thing is like is like a glass of wine, right? Like, you can look at it as how did today feel?
Yeah.
Without it.
Yeah. Right? I used to be very regimented with everything. Like, I have to exercise, I have to eat right. It's like I have this scorecard during the day. And then at the end of the day, if I didn't do all that stuff, I'm a failure, right? I don't do that anymore. I think I've created the awareness and the awakening that life is life. There's not always going to be an opening for me to meditate. I'm not always going to choose to meditate, even though I know it's the best thing for me. I'm not always going to choose to do that. I'm not always going to choose not to have a glass of wine, even though I know it's the best thing for me. But what am I going to learn in that process? I think because I meditate so much, I don't really notice a huge difference unless I'm like a week out. If I'm a week out, then I
couldn't even imagine being a week.
My kids will be like, Mom, when was the last time you meditated?
I say, the first thing I do with the people I work with is I get them meditating every day. And that's different. Like, they'll be like, well, I want to go longer. I'm like, well, are you going 7 days a week?
Yeah.
They're like, no. I'm like, all right, well, let's go 7 days a week. Don't worry about going longer.
Yeah.
And it's always like when they want more, you realize they're not ready for more. It's when they stop asking for more that they're ready for more.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I've had people say like, okay, I've done those breathing techniques. Like, what's next? I'm like, the breathing techniques. Stay with them.
Stay with it. Exactly.
Yeah, stay with it. And the first thing I have them do, and it's different for everyone. So some people, it's like they're already doing 15 minutes 5 times a week. All right, we'll do that 7 days a week. Some people, it's take one conscious breath.
Yeah.
I want you to take one conscious breath 7 days a week.
Yep.
First thing you
Meet
do in the morning.
Meet them where they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we move from there. But it's the consistency.
That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
In it. I mean,
that's what we do with our athletes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. People who just want to like I want to race, or I want to start running, and I want to qualify for Boston. Right. Well, it's like, what's your consistency?
Yeah.
Like, and
let's just get off the couch first, right?
Yeah, step number 1, get some running shoes.
Exactly.
But they all want to accomplish so much.
Yeah.
So quickly.
Yeah.
And they look at me and they'll be like, well, you're already running this pace. But I've done a lot of work over the years. Like, you're seeing me where I am right now.
Yeah.
You didn't see me when I was walking to keep my heart rate down.
Right.
Like, doing the work. Like, I can speak to this, and this is what I can share with you works.
Right.
Like, let's just consistently get into an exercise habit. I don't care what you do.
Just get in the habit.
Right. I don't care if you finish the 30-minute run, if you can go out for 5 minutes, Awesome.
Right.
Let's just get into a consistent working out process. And once we establish that, then we can start to build on that habit that you formed.
Right.
So now they're not disgruntled about doing a hard workout or disgruntled about doing 2 workouts in a day. Like they're in the habit of...
It becomes normal.
It becomes normal.
You normalize it.
And they always have that why.
Right.
Of why they're doing it always.
Right.
And so I remind them of that. But the exercise is great, but also getting them to meditate and do yoga.
Yeah.
Like
huge.
it's the full body awareness.
Yeah.
So we're not just trying to get our athletes to, be fast and cross the line. Like that's great.
Right. But there's so much more to it.
There's so much more to it.
Yeah, that's not necessarily going to change the world.
No.
And that's what we want to do. We're on a mission to create a better world.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's funny and not backing off either. Like BJ has had and maybe does currently have some athletes that are resistant to yoga. And he's like, I'm just going to keep putting it on the schedule. And then it's their choice to do the yoga or not, but not backing off. We are yogi triathlete. People pretty much know what they're getting into
we're not
when they
hiding that.
Yeah, we're not hiding that. And believe me, we understand the resistance we're up against because we could just blast out a bunch of Ironman plans and sell a whole bunch of them.
It's very yang energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But what we're trying to do is create a better
that yin, that
create
balance.
a better world.
Yep.
Yeah,
because our world is so out of whack with that.
Oh my God.
So that's what you guys are doing is bringing that energy, that energetic connection back into the exercise that's being lost.
Yeah.
If it's all exercise and we're just running around all the time and we're never quiet and we never sit. That's when people say, oh, I like to run and meditate. It's like, that's not the same thing at all. You're still in movement. We're supposed to be sometimes. We're just supposed to be in connection. Maybe you can get that connection walking and running. I just don't feel like it's the same.
I don't think you can.
As closing your eyes and focusing on that intense, in that quantum physics book, she calls it 0 state awareness. And I love that because it's like, I am aware of nothing. When you're running, you got to be aware of your feet. You got to be aware of the cars. You have to be aware. This is aware of nothing. It's the nothingness that we came from. So to put yourself in that 0 state awareness is what's going to give you the connection with your mind and your body. Otherwise, you're just mind, body, which is what we are all day anyways. Right?
And it gives you a look into what's brewing underneath.
Right.
Like what's brewing under the surface. And this is like a famous line. I always quote my mother. She says, and she's now meditating, like absolutely loves it. She's in her 80s. She's amazing. I know now I just broadcast her age all the time because she's so freaking amazing.
I'm sure she's proud of it.
She's such a just an unbelievable woman. But when she first started, she was like, Jess, meditation can give people anxiety attacks. I'm like, yeah, I know. I remember very well the first time that I sat and tried to be quiet.
Working through all that.
And even now, like, it's not that when you have a steady practice that it's always peaceful. I remember just a couple of weeks ago sitting down on the beach and I had a beautiful deep meditation, but the timer hadn't gone off yet. But like mentally it was kind of like, all right, I'm done. Like I'm ready. And I had to sit in it and I had to sit with it, that angst of wanting to get out of the meditation and wanting when's the timer going to go off? Like, maybe a grain of sand hit it and it stopped and now I'm going to be here for 5 hours and just all this stuff and sitting in that angst and just noticing what it is that's brewing under the surface. And that's being in stillness as that moves and not feeding it is where the healing happens.
It's breaking through it.
Yeah, that's where the healing happens.
Oh, that's beautiful.
All right, so we should probably wrapping this up, but I still want to go back to the question of, and then we got to get, because we are talking about 1 year no PR.
Yeah, we should talk about how this program works.
But I still want to go back to when meditation came into your life.
Yes. So like I said, I started meditating about 15 years ago, and then really seriously, probably a year before we came to California, I was doing like an hour a day.
So what brought it to, like, even back 15 years ago, like,
oh, that was major family stuff. Yeah, I had a huge falling out with my family. I was in therapy. They wanted to put me on medication. And I remember I had teenagers and toddlers at the time. So we have 2 older ones that are a year apart. They're 25 and 23. And then our little ones are not little anymore. They're 15 and 13.
They're not little.
But they were little. They were toddlers. And I remember I walked into playgroup and my best friend was there and I was like frazzled. I mean, teenagers and toddlers, that's probably like the hardest thing you could ever do in your life.
Yes.
Not even kidding you. It's like an emotional roller coaster that never ends. Someone is always crying and it's usually me, you know? So I remember walking in sleep deprived, you know, just like at my wit's end and looking at my girlfriend and going, what are you doing? Because she was just like, and she had 2 babies herself at the time. She was like, I found this meditation class. I'm like, sign me up. I need to know what this is about. So I joined, it was like a 6-week course and I took a course on meditating and it completely changed my life. It changed the way I mother, the way I'm a wife. I mean, it changed everything in my existence. I stopped being so anxious and such a perfectionist and so hard on myself. And it's just been an incredible process. And the last few years, I think it's probably gone to a whole other level because it's helped me to connect, you know, just like Abraham, I connect with source energy. I have words that come through my mouth. You guys probably have, I mean, just sitting here with me, it's like, it's not me.
Yeah, none of this conversation is scripted.
No, it's like this stuff just flows through me and I'm like, damn, that's smart.
We met an hour ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this infinite flow of energy that's on the universe that I have been so blessed to be a part of. And I think opening myself up with meditation has created even more wisdom and it's not me, you know, like you said, It's not me. I would love to take all the credit for it, but I'm just open to it.
Oh, such a beautiful origin story. And I think so many people can relate to that. And for me, you know, I was the girl that couldn't sit down, panic attacks, couldn't sleep at night, total perfectionist, not always that nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not always that nice.
Really, Jess?
And total control freak and all of that. And the initial, like, taking all of that down like such a massive level at no extra effort than just sitting quietly was beautiful. And then of course, the more you do it, then you start the deep healing and then you get the wisdom. So space opens, the wisdom starts coming out, words start flowing through you. You know, you get to a whole other level because your vibration is higher.
And then you're open to that inspiration that is so important.
And you can
like you guys are
act on
talking
it.
about living on purpose. The basis of all of that is inspiration. It's being able to hear that voice and act on it.
Yep. That's
fearlessly.
why the 3 of us are sitting
Or
in the California zip codes.
Exactly.
Back to the no beer 1 year.
Yeah.
So give us just a little insight into how does the program, how would one start with it and what do they offer through this program?
Okay, so what I ended up doing was just, originally I think the Facebook group was free and I don't think it is anymore, the support group. So what I ended up doing was I wanted to support these guys and I felt very driven. I think it was $100 for the 90-day thing at the time. And I just felt very driven to supporting them. You know, I want to pay for this because I don't know. I think a lot of people just want stuff for free. And I think the exchange of energy is always important to us committing to something. So if you haven't committed to 1 year no beer and paying for it, I would say that would be the very first step, is to go pay for it. I'm not getting paid to tell you guys this. I'm just saying if we don't have something on the table, then it's just another group on Facebook that we're scrolling through. So I would join, you know, at whatever level. If you feel it's only possible to do 30 days right now, that's fine. But I would tell you at day 35, there was a change for me, you know, just getting so far away from it. Like now it doesn't rule my thoughts. I don't think every day, oh, I really wish I could have a glass of wine, which I used to do.
I used to love the time change.
Yeah.
Like when you went fall back.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's going to be doctor early and get my jammies on.
Especially in New England. It's like, give me that nice red glass of wine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think about that at
not
all
at all.
anymore.
Like it's not even in my, you know, now my thought process is more, if we're going to go out to dinner, I'm like, am I even going to drink? Like, do I even want that? Do I even want to be, it really disrupts my sleep. And also, for people to know, it took me about 40 days to start sleeping well after I gave it up, which is interesting because it was disrupting my sleep. But I went through this whole thing where I had no energy, and that lasted for about 35, 40 days, no energy. It was like there was a detox going on at a really deep level, and my sleep was really disrupted. Now I sleep so good that I almost don't want to ever have a drink because that messes up my sleep, you know. I can't sleep good. So there's a process that you're going to go through in a detox. And the whole thing is a process. So if you can let the beating yourself up go, if you slip, just that group is so wonderful because you get the support and you notice that there's a lot of people out there that are going through this process that are not losers or failures or, these are incredible people that are getting up every day and making a decision to make their life better. And that's really all we can do,
And I'm sure there's all different levels, like people who...
Oh, there is.
Like, have some serious issues with substance and things like that.
I'm sure there's younger college students.
I don't really know if there's been too many young kids. It's a lot of people, I would say, like our age in their 40s that are realizing that they're, wasting so much of their time. I mean, there's this
money.
Yeah, and there's just, stories about mothers who are now more present to their families and fathers. There's this one guy the other day who fell asleep and his daughter videoed him because he was wasted and he was like, I can't ever let my kids see me like that again. It's like real awakening to what is happening. So I think they are brilliant for doing this. And I'm so glad and happy to be a part of it.
I feel like when you're talking about dinner, like you're just on autopilot.
Yes, completely.
Like you're just with your friends and you want a cocktail or whatever. Yeah. But I just love the opportunity to just try it. Like the fact that you go into this program and you pay your money and you're trying it shows that you have some control.
Yeah.
Like you have a conscious thought and you can separate yourself from always grabbing for that drink.
Yeah.
But now you have the opportunity to just try something new and see what happens.
Exactly.
And you may not succeed. You may succeed. You may come back.
Yeah.
But at least it plants the seed that you have that ownership. Like you have ownership of what you choose and what you decide to do.
Totally.
Like what you reach for.
And you get to see evidence of people whose lives really improve. And if you can get yourself to that point, then you become an inspiration. And one trick that I had that worked really well, and I still do this, is when I have that feeling of wanting a drink or that calling, I like to call it, the abusive boyfriend calls me on the phone, I say, what if I didn't? What if I didn't have that glass of wine right now? I actually did it this weekend because my kids were in, and the night before I think I had a glass of wine, and then it was like Saturday night, and I thought, what if I didn't? And I actually put a glass of wine on the table, and the bottle was on the island, and I never had it because I went, what if I didn't? And I just kept doing that. What if I didn't right now? What if I didn't? And that it'll just stave it off. And then before you know it, it's time to go to bed. And you didn't do it.
And you were great the next day.
I felt great. I felt fantastic because I was like, that was a victory for me because it was calling me from that habitual place. That wouldn't have been a conscious decision because all day I was like, I'm not going to have a drink tonight. So get yourself out of that habitual thought and go, well, what if I didn't? What would that look like?
And so you mentioned that your husband drinks and your kids. And so for somebody who's like thinking about this, like let's say they're meditating or they want to start meditating, but they want to clean up their vibration. Because that's really what it is, you guys. I mean, negative thoughts, alcohol, drugs, it's all low vibe.
Yep.
And we're all about trying to raise the vibe of the whole entire planet. Yes. That's what we need to do. We're in a state of trauma. Like this is it's like ER material right now.
Yeah.
Like the state of this earth that we live on, the earth itself, the way people are interacting with each other, the way people are in relationships, their relationships to their children, their job, themselves. I mean, this is absolute like emergency room type of thing. It's time for us to wake up.
Yes.
And so for those people who are like, I want to wake up.
Yeah.
I want to wake up and I want to feel good when I wake up and I want to sleep better at night and I want to be a better parent and a better person and a better athlete. But everybody around me is drinking.
Right.
How do I, what would be because you're kind of living it, what would be your advice to them for how to navigate that?
Yeah, I would say, it all starts within. So the very first thing is getting clear on who you want to be, because we identify ourselves with our surroundings and with the people around us. There's so many people in that 1 year no beer group that identified themselves as drinkers. They were the fun ones at the party. They were the ones that black out at the party. They have that identification. So you have to start separating yourself from that identity, and not to say that you have to become this like I'm the sober one, But I have to say, I love being the designated driver. We never have to get an Uber. I never have to question if I can drive or not. I'm always the driver, and I'm okay with that because I know everybody's going to get home safe. So it's about identifying, like taking the identification from whoever your friends are or whoever your family is, and also just being okay with the fact that they're still drinking. You know, if I was to put this on my husband and say, you can't drink, that would cause a whole ton of resistance in our relationship. So it's about no longer being judgmental of what he's doing or what they're doing, but it's just doing what's right for me. So it's about accepting the fact that this doesn't work for me. This is not what I want, but I also need to be in acceptance of what they choose to do as well, as long as it doesn't completely affect me. It's whether you allow it to affect you or not, you know, because I did for a long time. Every time I gave up drinking, I wanted my husband to give it up. He doesn't want to give it up, and it's not a problem for him. So I have to remember that. And if I create judgment in that, that's when we get into arguments. So when I let go of my judgment and say, you know what, this is my journey, this is my life, and this is what's right for him and what he believes and what he's conscious to, then I just have to be myself. Because that's the 100 monkey thing, right? You know, the story of the 100 monkeys.
No, it's
Somebody just reminded me of this the other day. It was about how there was 2 islands, and there was a monkey that had realized how to open the coconut. Like, they didn't know how to open the coconuts. I'm probably saying this whole thing wrong. But learned how to open the coconut. And once it got to the 100th monkey, the other island knew how to do it. They didn't need to be taught, because it's that whole, it's what we're doing. Like, we love to put these things out on podcasts, but the reality is us being who we are is more effective than anything else. We're changing the consciousness of the world by being who we are, not by spouting it. It's
right.
You know, because we could get up and preach all day, but it's about living it. It's about becoming it. So I'm becoming who I am. My family's watching. They're seeing what I'm doing. They're seeing me wake up happy every day. They're seeing me not tired, not hungover, feeling great. They're seeing all that. My husband's seeing that. He's noticing it. So I know that as I just become more of who I am, then I'm going to reflect that in the people. The people around me are going to reflect that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a perfect place to end.
Yay!
It's a perfect place to end. You are amazing.
That's so fun.
I can't even question any of why you're sitting in my home right now. It's just so beautiful. And we're just so grateful to share you. So thank you
guys.
Beautiful.
That was great.
I love this woman. Does she make you want to reshape your belief systems or what? Her story is living proof that we are supported in this life. And I hope that our exchange was helpful in understanding more of how we are in total control of our experiences. If you still have questions or you want to inquire more, contact her. All of her info is in the show notes for this episode, and she is ready to teach you how to lift your vibration. But you need to be ready too. I love how adamant she is about meditation. She has empowered me to be even more non-wavering on that piece with my students, because really, you guys, without it, you will continually hit a ceiling. And since I think we're all familiar with banging our heads against the wall, it's not a place of growth. Like, literally, I have banged my head against the wall more than once in the past out of frustration, just sheer frustration of not knowing how to process things. All right, you guys, so that's it. Let this episode marinate and then mark it for a re-listen, because there is major wisdom that really needs to go in the long-term bank here. So we seem to be on a streak of strong, powerful female guests, and that's going to continue next week with, well, if you're a Patreon supporter, you're going to be the first to know. So I'll be releasing that information probably in about a week or so, but just like our guest today, our next guest is like gonna rock your world. So I'm out, you guys. Have an abundant week. And I'm not talking about money. I am talking about being awake and ready, eyes wide open and fully receptive to the limitless abundance that is already in your life, patiently waiting to welcome you back home.